Hey, it's Alan Berg. Before we get into this episode, I'm starting something called Ask Me Anything. That's right. You submit your questions and they could become an entire episode or something that I answer at the end of an episode. To submit your questions, look for the red button at podcast.alanberg.com. That's right, podcast.alanberg.com. Click on the red button, submit your question, and maybe you'll hear it here on the podcast. Thanks. So what do you do when you get that bad review and you call me? That's what you do. Listen to this episode and hear a conversation. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, author, sales trainer, website reviewer, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I have my good friend, Richie Steadman, who started me on this podcast on for a conversation. Richie, how you doing?
I'm great in the height of wedding season out here in Utah. So many things.
Now you messaged me the other day and you had a situation come up and we decided let's have everybody hear this conversation instead of just you and me having this one. So fill everybody in. How did this start here? What prompted you to reach out to me?
Well, I have a couple of people that work for me. One of the DJs that I had work for me, doing a wedding. A couple days after the wedding, the mother of the bride hits me up and says, "Hey, from one business owner to another, I just wanted you to know we had sort of this expectation of what was going to occur, and our expectations weren't met." And I apologized to her and I said, "Can you give me some specific things?" And she told me them, and then I went back to the DJ and he said, "Oh, I'm not sure that that's really how that all went down." And then I went back to her and I said, "Let me assure you, I'm very sorry. That's not what we aim to do. Thank you for letting me know. I've spoken to him." And then I thought that was sort of it. And then about 5 or 6 weeks later, I got an email from the father of the bride who essentially said, "Hey, you know what? We went back and revisited when we got some videos and photos, and it was sort of brought to my attention that the experience wasn't everything that my daughter, the bride, wanted it to be," and started to list out some very specific, "Hey, the DJ did this, the DJ didn't do this," sort of things. And then said at the end, and in almost in passing, and it said, "And for this reason, I feel like we should be refunded." And then just sort of let it alone. And the me before I met Alan Berg would have been like keyboard worrying it, being like, "You don't know how wrong you are. I'm not sure about, right?" Just all of the things. But I
Right.
decided to take a breath. I reached out to you, and then I tried to proceed as best as I could. I almost got the bracelet, like, what would Alan do? That's what I was sort of thinking. How would I engage in this? And so I guess for me, I thought maybe I could be an example for what people can do when they get those emails, especially those that are asking for a refund or get contacted about that. But like, what do you do? What don't you do? And then I can share with you kind of what the resolution, because this is in the past now, what I ended up doing.
Great. And it's funny because I actually do have that bracelet that somebody sent me after I did a mastermind, and it's a little bracelet. If you're watching video, you can see it here. It's like a little kid would make, and it's got little beads with letters, and it says WWABD. What would Alan Berg do? And this company sent it to me, and they said, "Not a day goes by that we don't ask ourselves, what
Huh.
would Alan Berg do?" So there you go. So you didn't even know I had that bracelet.
No, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
There you go. I should put these on the swag selling or something.
Yeah.
So here's my thinking, right? Whenever I get these calls, nobody calls me and says, "Hey, Alan, I got another 5-star review. Isn't that great?" Right? I
Mhm.
don't get that call.
Right.
Right. I do see it on social, which is great. And I think you guys should post those there. I also think you should be responding to your reviews, which we can talk about a little bit as well. So the first thing that I do whenever somebody calls me, because clearly the hair is on fire at that point, it's like, what do I do? And you know better than warrior the keyboard, like you said, and like, here you go.
Yeah.
Or you do that, but don't send that email. That's
Yeah.
always the one you don't send. Right. And I've been there too. I mean, we've all been there, like the email you want to send and the email you actually send. Right. So the
Mhm.
first thing I always do is say, tell me the story. Or if there's a review, if it's already happened with a review, show me the review Let me read that review. And then I asked this question: how much of what they said is true? And I asked you that question: how much of what they said was true? So tell me, how much of what the mother, the father, whoever said is actually true?
Well, so I went back to the DJ and I said, "Hey, you know what? They said that you played songs from a do not playlist, right? That was one of the things that they cited."
Right.
And I said, can you show me a do not playlist? And then because of the software that he uses, we could see the log from the night. And he said, first of all, they sent me no do not playlist. And second of all, in the conversation that we had, they did mention a few artists that I took notes of, and then I put them, into my notes. And as you can see, I did not play any of those artists.
Right.
Secondarily, I guess in the night of, there was an artist that wasn't mentioned as a do not play, but the bride doesn't care for, and then sent one of the bridesmaids over to say, "Hey, next song, let's move along." And he, immediately did that. So that was one of the things that was existent, but didn't happen. And then the other things that I sort of brought up in that occurred, there was more context, like the first song didn't start immediately, and that's because people started to sit down, and so the DJ was trying to get people to stay around the dance floor. They just didn't have that sort of context that was going on. So I would say, about 20% of what they said was true, with the asterisk of the reason why that occurred is not because he was sitting there, picking at something or, looking on his phone. It was trying to manage the event as a whole that maybe they weren't just aware of.
Right. Which again, weeks after the wedding, it's easy to lose that context there.
Sure.
So the logs is a great thing, having that thing. Now, first lesson learned. They said do not playlist. He said, I never got a do not playlist. So there's a communication issue. The
Sure.
question is, whose fault is that? Did they send it and he didn't receive it? Did it go to junk? Did they
Sure.
never send it? Did they think they sent it? Did they write it down? Right. We don't know at this point. Truth is, it doesn't matter at this point. What matters is songs were played that they didn't want played.
Right.
Right. I've not been a DJ. I have played in bands, but I've not been a DJ. I personally tell couples when I get a chance to speak to them, like my son who's getting married soon, the do not play list should be a very, very, very small list, because you're making a decision not just for yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You're making a decision for all of your guests. And every time I hear somebody like, well, they don't want line dances, like, really? Like, your cousins and your aunts have been waiting for your wedding to go up there and to do pick it, the achy breaky, or to do the cha-cha shuffle or the Cupid shuffle or the electric slide or whatever. They know that dance. They're going to a wedding. They're going to do that dance, right? And you're taking that away from them. And I always ask the bands and the DJs, I said, have you ever played one of those songs and the dance floor was empty?
Right.
It's not, right? The dance floor is always full because people know that. So don't make this decision that I don't want my guests to have a good time because I don't like this song. However, there are certain songs that you can put on a do not playlist.
Right.
If you were married before,
right,
there are certain songs, right? Let's say, right? I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But how many songs is that, right? That's your first dance song. Maybe you walk down the aisle to that song. All right, I'll give you those. But otherwise, there's got to be a really good reason. You can say play the clean versions as opposed to the dirty versions, whatever. But the reason you're hiring a DJ or you're hiring a band, right, is to help these people have a great time and let them use their expertise to do that, based upon the fact that if the dance floor is packed right now, people are liking whatever's going on. Let's do more of that, as opposed to, oh, I have to play, Metallica now, Enter Sandman, because, it's on the must play list. And, it just doesn't fit now with the Bee Gees, right? It just doesn't work there. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe we can just put a
we
beat
could do
underneath.
it. We could make it work. We could make it work. The right kind of party.
I've seen some mashups where, there's some pretty good stuff like that over there. But again, so this is a conversation you need to have ahead of time, is to say to people, talk about that idea of the do not playlist and say, I'm going to give you 5 songs.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if they go, oh, no, 5 songs, I said, well, there's got to be a really good reason why these other ones, because you're making the decision for 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, whatever it is. So that's the first thing. Lesson learned is conversation. He didn't get a do not playlist. Bring that up and say, are there any songs that you absolutely don't want me to play? Give me 3 songs, right? Start low, negotiate from the bottom there. I always say negotiate from the top, negotiate from the bottom there, right? Give me those songs that's like, oh, that reminds me of my ex or whatever. There you go. Okay. Yeah. All right. The logs again is definitely your help for you here. The other thing is, thank you for not going all warrior on the keyboard because that never works out well.
No,
All right. So question for you, Richie. Now did they post a review?
they did not.
Okay. All right. So good. So they actually gave you the opportunity, which is really good because some people just go right there. So my question for you on your reviews on Google or the Not a Wedding Wire or wherever they are you responding to the good reviews?
I am responding to, I would say I've responded to about 80% of the reviews. And sometimes
Okay.
that's just time, right? If there's a sales call that needs to be done,
Mm.
if there's a wedding or an event that I'm preparing for, like I kind of go in the what makes me money, even though reviews are great to respond to, but there is the hierarchy of I've only got this much time. What am I going to do? So yeah, I probably responded to about 80% of them.
Okay. I'm working on a new book now with my friend Brian Lawrence, and I was just reading one of the chapters that he was talking about with SEO and stuff like that, your Google business profile. And how fast you respond to a review does help your SEO
Hmm.
on your Google business profile. So just
Okay.
something to keep in mind there.
That's
It
great.
doesn't take long. It doesn't take long, right? Just read what they write. Sometimes they write a sentence. Sometimes they write a book. You read what they wrote. You respond personally. You mention something they didn't mention so people know you know who it is. The
Mhm.
quicker you do that, the more it's fresh in your mind about all that kind of stuff. It is important to do. According to the Knot, couples for um, venues and photographers read 7 to 9 reviews per vendor on average,
Wow.
five to seven for everybody else. So if you have not done 100% of them, just go to the first 10 or whatever, make sure you've responded, and then every new one that comes in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So back my days when I was at the Knot VP of Sales, it was kind of a similar situation. Here I get the call when your hair is on fire because you got this potential customer problem or the bad review. At the Knot, people didn't call me when they were happy, right? Because you've
Yeah.
already been through customer service, your sales rep, your sales director, and then you get to me. It wasn't again, I want to tell you how happy I am right now. It was always that other thing.
Hmm.
The first thing that I would always do, again, you want to try to get that person on the phone if you can. You want to have a conversation. It's easy to hide behind that letter or that email.
Hmm.
Is I want you to tell me in your words what went on,
Hmm.
right? And I want to take notes here. And if you don't hear me talking, it's because I'm taking notes here. So please tell me what happened. And then they would say it. And I would say, is there anything else I need to know? And some people would rewind, go right back to the beginning, start over again.
Hmm.
And I'll give you a second time. If you're really that agitated about it, I'll give you a second time. Right. And then they go through it. If they went to a third time, I'd stop them and say, okay, let me tell you what I think I heard. And you tell me if I got it right over here. Right.
Hmm.
And they would say it now. Very important. What are the words that they use? What are the keywords that they used in their message or in their voice that they keep saying, it was horrible, it was a disaster, whatever it is. Use their words back so that, like, okay, you definitely heard me. And right. And then, oh, I'm sorry. I should have started this differently. The first thing I would say is, this is the last call you're going to have to make about this.
Hmm. I like that.
Right. Now, it didn't mean I could solve it on that call, but they're not going to have to call me again, right? I'm going to call them back. I'm going to have somebody handle this, whatever it is, right? This is the last call you're going to have to make about this. You could already feel this. You could
Hmm.
feel the pressure coming out of that, right? So let them talk. And it doesn't solve anything to go back to this father of the bride now and say, okay, listen, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Right? You watch the video. You're wrong. That's not the way it went down. I have this over here. Right. Most important thing at this point is, what do I need to do to make you happy?
Hmm.
It doesn't mean I'm going to give them what they ask for, but ask them, because you can't hit a target you can't see.
Right.
Right. Had a situation. My one of my son's best friends got married. They rented a suite in this beautiful hotel. They get there and they gave them a different suite. And apparently it was in the contract that it was a similar size, but the first one was on a high floor, had a view of the Hudson River and all this stuff. This one was overlooking the parking lot. And the mother and the father of the groom are like crazed right now because this is it. And it's like, all right, just, you got to get ready. So go get ready in the suite, whatever. So afterwards, the father calls me up and he says, okay, can I drop your name when I write a letter to them? I say, oh, you can do it. I don't know if it's going to help. I don't know if they know me, but sure, why not? But I asked him, I said, what are you looking for? And as a consumer, that's important. It's an important lesson for all of us. If you're going and looking for compensation of some kind, which we aren't always, right? Like when I
Right.
report a problem, sometimes I just want you to know, hey, there's a problem, right? Like we were just at this hotel in Pennsylvania, and the shower head gets a little pink, a little mildew on the shower head. And I went down in the morning. I said, listen, when you have them come clean the room, could you ask them to clean or replace the shower head, right? I'm not looking for compensation. I wanted a clean
Right.
shower head. I went back. It was clean. I don't know if they changed it, if they just cleaned it. It was done. That's it. That's all we need to know, right? Some people want to, just want to try to get something for everything. I'm not like that, right?
Right.
Tell you there's a problem. All right. I like the fact that this guy gave you an opportunity as opposed to going there because it also keeps it private and now you can have that situation. So I would go back to him again. I'm really sorry. I did speak to the DJ. I did get the details over here. There seems to be some confusion as opposed to whether a do not playlist was actually sent or received. But again, that's neither here nor there right now. Mr. Whatever, what do I need to do to make you happy? All right. So now let's go to what you did. What happened?
Ooh, ooh. Now I got a question about that. Do you leave it that open-ended? Like,
Yes.
what
Yeah.
what do I need to,
Right. Because sometimes they'll be like, well, he said, I think we're entitled to refund, which is one thing, but is
right,
that a full refund? Is that a
right,
partial refund? Right. And sometimes it's like, what do I need to do to make you happy? And some people were like, I just needed you to know. Like, that's what I do is like, you need to know because you can't fix this if you don't know this. Right.
right,
Um, and then other times it's like, yeah, you have to give me a full refund. Well, was it a total disaster? Right. It wasn't a total disaster. So it was a full refund actually warranted.
right,
But in one of my books and a previous podcast that I did, one of the things I said is, what would you pay to make it go away?
right,
So if this guy were to not be happy and go and post a 1-star review everywhere, how much pain would that cause you, either physically or actually monetarily, because of what it could, be a problem for future people who don't choose you, right? Like if
right,
you lost one sale because of that review,
right,
was that worth it? And that's
right.
one. And that's even if you would even know that you would get one. So I like to ask people, what do I need to do to make you happy? Because I find that more of the time than not, what they ask for is reasonable.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's a little bit more than you're willing to do, and you might do it just to make it go away because, okay, you're not going to post a review. Nobody from the wedding is going to post a review. There you go. And then sometimes they're just asking for way, way more.
Yeah.
And that's when you're rolling back and you say, you know what? I hear how upset you are. And I definitely, again, I get it. It's an important day. Now, you said you were looking at the video, and I'm sure when you looked at the video, you saw people dancing, right? I've
Mhm.
talked to the DJ. People were dancing, have a great time. The ceremony is great. So it's not like the entire day was a complete disaster. There were some things that didn't happen the way they were. I don't think a full refund punishment fits the crime in this case, but I do feel that I want to do something for you. So let's find a common ground here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was a coward. I didn't ask him what he wanted to make
Okay.
because I guess in my mind I was like, well, if I open the gate and he says a full refund, I had no intention of
Right.
doing that. And so that seemed, kind of whatever. So my first thing that I did, I got the email, which first lesson, don't open emails while you're on vacation, because I was on the last couple of days of vacation and it just sort of sucked me right back into working once I was done. I should not have even opened it. Um, but I wrote back and I said, hey, would love to chat with you, your wife, whom I've spoken with only on the phone, and also your daughter, whom the contract was with. My mind sort of latched onto that a little bit, where I just wanted to be like, I don't want to deal with this. You're not the person I have the contract with. But
Right.
I put that aside and I said, I'd love to
Right.
have a conversation with all of us to be able to chat through some of the things that, maybe misunderstood or whatever. And then, couple days went by and then he got back. He said, I don't think that a Zoom call is necessary and I don't want to bring everyone in on it. Here's my phone number if you would like to give me a call.
Okay.
And so very quickly, one of the things I pride myself on is responding quickly, whether it's good or bad stuff. I like to try and get to it as soon as I possibly can. I find it makes more sales on the one end, but it also, I think in this case, because he knew that he was a priority, that it helped that way. I said, great, here's the time, here's the thing that we'll do. And then the time from setting the time of the phone call to doing the phone call, I just got to be super anxious and worried and being like, what do I say? And how do I do this? And all these things. And so I started the phone call off and I said, hey, I just want you to know that it is company protocol that we record all of our conversations when a refund is being discussed. So this call is being recorded. That's also a Utah law. I don't think it's the same way or everywhere, but I said, we'll go there. And then I said, and I'm proud of this. I kind of did the thing that you said. Tell me what's going on. Tell me, all the things. And he went through and he said, we had people over and I could, I think the big thing is I just saw how disappointed my daughter is as she looks back on this. And, as a father, that makes me so sad. I wanted to be able to provide it. And so it became very quickly apparent to me that I wasn't going to be able to be like, well, we didn't play a do not play list because there
Right.
wasn't one. And
Right.
the reason why that was is because the venue messed up and started seating people. And so it was very clear to me that it was not going to be, well, you're wrong there. We're not doing that here. It was just that he was upset and then trying
Right.
to figure out what it was that he wanted. We talked around a little bit, and that I think was when I was trying to feel out, like, is he pushing for a full refund,
Mhm.
or is he just, he feels bad, and maybe like a partial refund will be the thing that makes him feel great about it.
Right.
And the one thing that I hadn't brought up to you yet at this point is that at the end of the night, this gentleman chased down the DJ to tip him. And so it was very clear to me that the night was not,
A disaster.
destroyed. It was not a disaster or
Right.
whatever. And so I had kind of set predetermined in my mind, I am willing to refund him this much money. And
Hmm.
it ended up being a third. I
Okay.
thought a third of it is fair because the DJ was there. He executed the ceremony without flaw. There are pictures and videos of the dance floor, just like you said, and the guy chased him down to give him a tip. So it couldn't
Right.
clearly
Right.
not have
Right.
been that. So I
Right.
decided that I would do that with the caveat of I made him sign a non-disparage agreement that said him or anyone else from the wedding party will not, say anything online or any of that kind of stuff. And so he said, I mean, that's not necessary. And I said, it is necessary on my end if you would like me to refund part of the money that
Hmm.
you paid. And he said, great. And I sent it. We got that exchange done in about 3 minutes, all electronic. And then it was sort of done, and I breathed through. But the thing that has been interesting to me, that's the first time in 15 years of doing events I've ever had to do a refund. I hope I don't have to do it again. It certainly wasn't for me, but it was a lot of things that I had not even thought of before because the situation had never presented itself. And so now having it, I learned the different things that I would do. But I think it's also valuable if you've never had something like this to go, what will I do? How will I handle it? And with the DJ, I was like, should the DJ pay part of that back because he was the one that did it? Or is it different because I'm the business owner? And so there have been a lot of things that it's just like, man, I never thought I would have to deal with it, thrust into dealing with it, and that's some of the pressure on my end, and then making its way through and being done with it. But I'm glad to know, as I hear you, a seasoned professional, years of complaints, not that there are many, I'm sure, but I'm sure you've had some great ones to go this, and this, that I at least aligned partially with a lot of the things.
Yeah. And again, there's no one right way to do it. Now, as far as the DJ paying or not, how long's the DJ been working with you?
7 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't have them pay anything. This is a business thing. You're making a business decision to
Right.
say, I'm going to make this customer happy. There you go. You have the discussion with the DJ and you say,
Hmm.
here's how we avoid this in the future.
Hmm.
Right. Do you typically get a do not play list from people? Yes, you didn't get one. You need to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But again, I would have that conversation up front and say, you're allowed your three songs that I'm not going to play. And if they
Hmm.
go to five or six, it's not going to ruin the night. But when somebody comes, and you've seen them, I've seen them. I remember people posting online, like 2 pages, single spaced of
Yeah.
the do not playlist. I'm like, you know what? You don't need a DJ now.
Yeah.
Right. Just go make a Spotify list and go, because you clearly think you know better. So you go do that. Right. Um, but the thing is, this is a business, right? It's a
Yeah.
business, and we're playing chess. We're not playing checkers,
Hmm.
and we're thinking ahead, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps ahead. That's what we're thinking. And the whole idea of what would you pay to make it go away? Which, if you haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to it. It's also in one of my books. I think it's Wit, Wisdom, in the Business of Weddings. What would you pay to make it go away? Once you get that 1-star review that's just staring at you, right? It's more painful to you than it actually is to your business if you have, dozens or hundreds of great reviews. I was at a mastermind in Hawaii recently, and this one guy brings up this bad review he got 5 years ago. And he's talking about it. I said, well, so when did this happen? And he said it was 5 years ago. And the whole room just like, heads just turned, looked, and like, let it go.
Yeah.
Like that person is long since moved on. Like they're not bothering you anymore. You are bothering you, and you're letting that be there. And that's just life, right? If you're in a relationship, whether it's a friend or whether it's a partner or married or whatever, those things that you won't let go, that the other person has long since moved on. Like like I hate them. Why? I don't remember, but I do. I do. Right? It's those things that you have to let it go. So I always say that the pain of writing that check or sending that money, that'll go away. That'll go away. That'll be a line item that your accountant will take care of. The pain of the bad review or whatever, that doesn't go away. So I've had people in this situation where you get referred by that person that you gave a refund to because you handled it the right way, right? Yeah. What really went on here, right? It sounds like somebody said something to somebody afterwards, right? And they're like, whatever. Like, no, not whatever. That's not whatever, man. Go back there. They'll give you some, And the daughter doesn't want the confrontation. The father's like, I'll take care of this for you, right? There you go. Because that's it. I don't want you to get on the call now with my wife and with the daughter, whatever. I'm taking care of this. So he's being, the alpha. He's doing that. Okay, fine. All right. Make him the hero. He got a refund. There you go. You move on. And that's it. The pain is gone. Like I said, it's a line item over there. The pain is gone. What was the right number? The right number, it was the number he accepted.
Yep.
Right. It's like, hey, how do you know that your rate increase is correct? The first time somebody says yes. Yeah. Right. It's the same way. So how do you know what's right? Would he have taken less? Maybe. Would he have taken more? Sure. Right. Yeah. And now just curious though, because you did business with the daughter, you had to refund the daughter.
Yeah.
So did the daughter sign the do not disparage?
Well, so the contract was worded in a way that anyone from this particular event, so any guests, because in our conversation he had said a friend of mine who happened to be visiting for this wedding, right? So everyone should know that a non-disparage agreement really is not a thing, but hopefully it feels like a thing to this guy and he won't have anyone ever write anything. But yeah. So I just refunded her, and I don't know if she was like, "What even is this?" I don't have any idea,
right?
What the kind of like loop in or loop out she was with all this. When I talked to the mom and when I talked with her, I never got to talk with her, and both of them said, "Please don't reach out to her."
Okay. Yeah. So she wants to move on. There you go. Yep. He's a hero now. He got her some money back. Right. She'll feel better about it. And now she's on to her life. She got married. She's on to her life. She's opening her gifts. She comes back from her honeymoon. She's taking care of her tan, and there you go. And that's it. Well, Richie, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. Thank you for, talking through what your thought process is and not going all warrior on the keyboard. We really appreciate that. And I can't thank you enough for having started me on the podcast, because I think we're somewhere around 250,000 downloads.
Jeez, that's incredible. Think about all those lives and businesses you're changing.
I mean, it's incredible. And it all started because this guy right here, contacted me one day and said, Alan, I could listen to you all day long. How come you don't have a podcast? That was exactly what you said to me. Yep. And there you go. So there it is. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm not sure what to put in the show notes because you're not looking to do business with people here. But if you do have anybody coming to Utah that does need an incredible DJ, you can contact Richie.
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it. Listen, I'll come and we'll play backup for your son's wedding. I'll be there just in case. I'm sure it's all hired already. I'll be there on backup.
And that is another story for another day. Okay. Right. Thanks, Richie. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe to this channel and post a review on your chosen platform, Apple Podcasts or whichever one. If you have any questions about anything in this episode or any of my episodes, email me directly at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com or visit my website, alanberg.com, alanberg.com. If you have any suggestions for future topics or guests that you'd like to see, please again, email me or visit my website. Thanks for listening.